Well, howdy everyone. So let's keep going. 2 more weeks, pretty crazy. I know, I know. And again, I'm going to be going back and forth from this Word doc to show you screenshots. But, basically, here we go. So the web is a stateless environment. In other words, it doesn't remember what you've done, when you've done it, where you've done it, anything like that. So when you log in, if we didn't have things like PHP, cookies, Rails, other languages that can remember that kind of stuff, we'd be in trouble. So HTTP, that protocol, the hypertext transfer protocol, is a stateless environment. It doesn't remember anything. Right, so cookies and Rails, which we're not really going to use, this is how you use them. You can set up a cookie that stores the username, okay, with the value, and you can say when it expires. Okay, problem with cookies is they have a maximum data size, 4,000 characters. Okay, they're on the user's computer. They can be deleted, read, or altered. I've read a lot about cookies being hacked, actually. Is if you're going to do it, just use it to preserve state and save time. Only store small pieces of data. Don't do anything that would store things from the database. So in other words, don't mess with the models. Don't store sensitive data because, like I said, they can be hacked. And I just don't trust it. Just it's gonna be small stuff like to preserve, did you make this thing drop down or not? Or or what time is it? I mean, things that if it were hacked, it wouldn't matter. Okay, so what we will be doing with this and with our thing that we're building is we're gonna be using sessions. Okay, so the way those work is it just sends a session ID to the browser, which then saves it in a cookie. Okay, and then when you go back and forth and go back to the application, it's going to compare that session ID with the one that it knows it sent you. And if they match, then it knows that you're the same person. Kind of like the form thing that we talked about, where every time it creates a form, gives it a hash value basically, and then it compares those two values to make sure that the information it's receiving from that form is from the exact same form that it created. Okay, this is how you do a session. Okay, so that would be saving the username right inside of a session. Okay, and then later on you'd be able to call it like that in the code. Okay, so the problem with sessions is it requires time, especially if they get bigger. Okay, they accumulate, so every time it stores a session, it keeps accumulating in the file size. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, and the session cookie resides on the user's computer, so as the session keeps using that cookie, the cookie is going to get bigger. So that session cookie can be deleted or hijacked. Okay, so the session storage, there's 3 types here. But really the way we're going to end up doing it is kind of what they call this super cookie. It's fast, there's no lookup needed. Okay, there's no setup requirement, it just does it on its own. Okay, there's no database bloat or file bloat. In other words, over here, as you start using the session over and over again, the file gets bigger and bigger. It doesn't do that here. Okay, it's encrypted. Okay, and it's signed, so you can't mess with it. People can't mess with it and then pretend to be you. But of course, the only limitation is this 4K maximum size, but because it doesn't get larger and larger, you're not going to run into that. Okay, and this is where they are stored. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at these. So I'll open up the command prompt here, just like we do every week, right? We'll hop into the folder. Okay, I'm gonna launch Atom in here. Okay, erase all this junk. Well, I don't think you're gonna have that come up because you guys got rid of that like week 1. All right, so we are going to, let's see, close all this stuff. Okay, we're gonna head over to config. Okay, and we're gonna go over to initializers. Okay, and we got session store. Okay, and this is where it defines that we're going to be using that like super cookie way of doing it. That kind of gets rid of all the negative things. The really only negative thing here is that it has that limit size of 4K, but it should be enough. Okay, and then we have the name of the app here. with all the different sessions. So basically, whenever there's a session inside of our app, I called mine Heroku. Whenever there's a Heroku session, it's going to use this cookie store. Okay, and then we're going to head and look at, let's see here. Going to head back to config, and we're going to go to secrets. Okay, now these are the keys. These are these hash values that are used when we encrypt things. Okay, when we use those cookies and they're encrypted and they're signed by certificates and such, it uses these values. So obviously this is something that Rails doesn't allow people to access, and you would never want this public anywhere, because if someone had this, you know, they'd be able to hack your site pretty easily. Okay, and like it says, make sure all the secrets in this file are kept private. Okay, if you're sharing your code publicly. So you would never want to put this file in a public server. All right, so another thing to know, though, obviously, is if I were to change these keys, and then all of the different sessions that were dependent on these keys, if this was a site that a ton of people used, and they all use these keys to get the cookie hashes and such, if I were to go in here and change that, it would render all of those sessions invalid, and none of them would work. So they would all have to re-log in, or they'd have to redo whatever they did before. Okay, and then also down here in production, you can see that it gets the secret key from this server call. So that makes it even more secure there. Okay, the cool thing about all of this encryption stuff, though, is Rails does it for us, and that's what's slick. And you'll see once we get into the login page where it encrypts the password for us, and it just makes it a lot easier. I mean, it may seem that, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we're doing in these assignments, right? But we also got to realize that it's doing some pretty heavy duty advanced stuff for us, and we don't have to do all that. So that's definitely a cool thing. Okay, it's two places we want to take a look at. So we're going to talk about control filters. Okay, they execute code before or after a controller action. So we're going to set things up. We're going to say basically before you do any of the actions in our controllers. So if we head over to our controllers, let's do that real quick. Hop over into app. All right, so excuse me, if we have all these actions, right, the index actions, show, new, we can say, all right, before you do any of these actions, run a bit of code to make sure that something has happened so we don't do any of these. So a good example would be, you know, check to see if someone's logged in, right? So before we show any of this stuff, before we create anything, before we delete anything, we go out and check to see if the person's logged in. If they are, then we allow these actions to happen. So that's what these controller filters are, is you can just say, all right, before any of these actions inside these controllers take place, check this or run this code, and we'll be creating those. So there's some usages here. Confirm that they're authenticated. You can set variables, right? You can find database objects, get shopping carts if you're doing some sort of store online. Okay, and these are the three types, and we're going to be using before action, but not these other two. Okay, and this kind of shows you what it looks like. So before action, find subjects. Okay, so it's basically saying before you do any of these actions, run find subjects, which is down here. It's always a private function. So you define this function, okay, you sort the subjects. So this would be sorting the subjects before any of those actions take place, and then you end them out. So that's really kind of what they look like. Right, so nothing too crazy there. All right, so we're gonna set some. We're gonna hop back into our app here. So we're gonna go into the pages controller. Cool, I'm already there. So remember, it's under app, controllers, and then hop into the pages controller. So what we're going to do is we're taking a look at this page, and we're looking at different things that we've used a bunch. So we've used subject sorted, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, I mean 4 or 5 times here, right? So that's kind of the whole point of Rails, is to not have to do things over and over and over again. So what we're going to do is basically set this up as a filter, and then instead of having this, we'll just call the function that does this. So therefore it just makes it easier and we don't have to write as much. All right, so right after we declare the layout as admin, we're going to set that filter. So we're going to say before action, okay, in other words, before any of these actions take place, we're going to run a method called find subjects. Okay, so that's the filter saying before you do any of this stuff, run this find subjects. And then what we're going to do is in this method, we're going to sort the subjects, so then we'll be able to go in here and do that. So just to keep things kind of organized, I'm just going to scroll down here. Okay, and we're just going to define it right under the page params that we already did here. So I'm going to hit enter a couple times. Okay, we're going to define the find subjects. Okay, and it's simple enough. At subjects equals subject sorted. So it's exactly what we're doing in all of these up here. Okay, but now this is basically just the main difference here is we're just doing it inside of this method now instead of doing it 15 different times. Okay, and we got to end that out. So again, if we think about this, what's happening is before any of these actions are ran, or before any of them can be ran, we say, all right, before all these actions, run this function called find subjects. So it comes down here and it finds it, and then it sets up the instance variable called subjects, and it sorts all the subjects inside of it. So because we've done this, this subjects instance variable is available to all these different actions. Okay, so now that we've set it up this one time here, we don't need it. Let's see, we don't need it here. We don't need it in any of these because now this is going to be available to all the different actions. So then now that we've done that, we can just go through and we can get rid of it in all of our different parts of the actions. Okay, I thought I erased the wrong one there. So obviously be careful. Make sure you don't erase something that shouldn't have been erased, right? That would be bad. Okay. Okay, so now that we got rid of all of the instances of subject sorted, we are going to, we gotta tell basically this action, or we gotta tell this before action what actions we want this to be ran in, right? Because on some of these actions, we don't want it to go out there and query the database and try to find the different subjects and sort them, right? So we have to define when we want it to happen. So we say only, okay, only equals, okay, and then we put it inside of here. So we only want this to be ran on the new action, on the create action, the edit action, and the update. Okay, so basically we just said, all right, only run this method on these actions, and these were the actions that we removed the sorted command from. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing with page count. right? We have page count +1, we have page count here. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to set up a little method here that's going to define that. Okay, so we're going to have before action again, and we'll call this set page count. Okay, and this one we're going to do only in edit and update. Put some space here. Okay. Come down here and we're going to define it. All right, set page count. And we're going to say the page count is equal to page count, right? It's just going to be this that we're going to be taking out. We're going to end that. Now you may be already saying, wait a minute, we got page count +1 in some of these, and we will handle that here a little bit later. All right, so we got page count in update. Get rid of that now. We got page count in edit. Can get rid of that, and that should be it. So that's why we have edit and update there. All right, but what about, new, right? What about create? It's basically, yeah, new and create. So we need to add those as the page count +1 as well. So we'll do that. Come over here and we'll say run this on new and create as well. But we need to set up a little if statement. We need to basically say, well, here, let's go down and do it. So we got our page.count. So we got to say if the parameters, okay, that get passed by the action okay, so it's basically saying if the action is new, in other words, right up here, if the action is new, is what we're saying here, or if the action is create, we're going to add page count plus equal to 1. So we're going to take whatever it equals and we're going to add 1 to it. Okay, and we'll close out that if. Okay. So it's just testing for the two different actions. If it's the new action or the create action, it's going to add 1 to whatever page count is. Well, we know what page count is because it gets set up here. So it gets set up here no matter what, right? And then if the action is new or create, then it adds 1 to whatever page count was when it first started. Okay. Now you remember you can't have page count +1 just because that doesn't add upon it. Okay. So it doesn't take what it is to begin with and add 1. Okay, that could give you some issues there. Okay, so now we can come in here and get rid of the page count +1. So again, this is just a way to write more, or I guess write less and do more, right? So you just write it down here. Okay, and we're just setting up these as basically global variables that will be able to be used. Now, if you wanted to, you could do something, with that. But I guess it's kind of a common practice to not do this because it helps you know exactly what you're going to be messing with. So if I were to move those and put them down in their own little method. If I were to come back to this, months later, it'd be a lot harder for me to remember exactly what it's doing here, and that could mess with people. So let's test this out. Basically, we're going to run the server, and if nothing changed, then we're good to go. So localhost, we'll go to pages. Okay, looks like everything's set up. So my server always takes a couple seconds. So basically I should be able to do add new page. Okay, see everything there. I should be able to go down here and have the choice of +1, which I do. Okay, I should be able to go to edit. There's no +1 there. That should still show up, which it does, so we're good. So looks like we're good to go. Nothing blew up, and that's a happy day. All right, so we want to do kind of the same thing in all the different controllers. Okay, so I'm just going to do it kind of the quick way. If you want to pause the video and try to get this done by yourself, see if you can do it on your own, go for it. I'm just going to kind of copy and paste in here to get it done as quick as we can, because these videos are long enough, right? And I know you're going, that's an understatement, right? So try to get these in here. All right, so we're going to call this find sections. We're going to call this set section count, but all of the actions should be exactly the same. All right, it's the same thing over here. This is going to be, oh crap, yeah, I just did this wrong. Actually, this is going to be, let's see, find subjects. Okay, because that's what the pages are attached to, right? They're attached to, the pages are attached to subjects, so it needs to find those subjects. The sections are attached to pages, so we have to do find pages. Okay, and then here we're going to set the section count. Yeah, I kind of messed that up right there. All right, so we got that. Find subjects. Okay, find pages, and then here we're not really going to need to find anything that it's attached to, so we don't need that action inside of subjects. But here we're going to set the subject count. Okay. All right, so find subjects, find pages, set page count, set section count, set subject count. Okay. So we're going to come down here and we're going to grab our 2. Throw them here in sections down here at the bottom. Make sure you put it in the right spot. You don't want to mess with your ends, right? That's the end of the class there. Make sure that you're not messing with that. All right, so I have find pages and set section count. So I want to change that. So find pages and set section count. So this is going to be at pages, page sorted. Okay, so we can go through here and get rid of them. Get rid of it there. Get rid of it there. So there should be 4 instances, and we got all 4. Happy day. Next one, set section count. So this is going to be section count, right? And then we're going to come over here and section count. So if the action is new or create, that should be the same, right? No matter which one we're on. We'll just set that to section count +1. So now we come up here and find them. So there it is. Say bye-bye. Okay, there it is as well. Get rid of it. Get rid of that. There it is. Boom. Think that's gonna be it. Yep. All right, just so I don't go too further ahead, I'm gonna go check out my pages, or my sections page now, just to make sure that nothing exploded. So we're gonna add new section. That works. Gives us the +1. Good. If I hit edit, no issues. Good. Looks like we're good. Okay. Now we can head over to the subjects. All right. So come over here, back to pages. I'm going to grab that again, copy, head over to subjects. Now we're probably not going to need that second function. So save that, will come up. So actually, yeah, we might. Yeah, because we still have to count the subjects, right? So we sort the subjects. Sorry guys, I'm just thinking out loud here. So let's see. No, that's okay, because we don't define that. No, I think all we're going to do is the count, because we're not going out to find what subject is attached to. So we don't need the sorted one. See you later. Okay, we want the set subject count. Okay, so I put that in there. So set subject count. We got it. Subject count. Subject count. The actions should be the same. Then subject count +1. Okay, now we should be able to come in through here and get rid of them. So see ya. And of course, be really careful that you don't get rid of any of the ends, just like I did there. You don't want this blowing up. So you just got to be really careful, really methodical when you go through here and do this stuff. Make sure all your definitions and ends are lining up. So far I'm 2 out of 3. Hopefully we can go 3 out of 3 here and not screw anything up. Okay, I think we're good. All right. So all we can do is test it. Head back to subjects. Here we go. We'll add new subject. Position does the +1. Good. Edit. Looks like we're good there. Yeah. Good stuff. All right, so we got it. Everything's good there. Okay, cool. So we're good with that. And now we can move on. I want to show logging. We're not going to do a whole lot. This is more like, hey, FYI, it's here. Okay, so whenever we do anything, you can see here, right? Every time we're doing anything to our server, it's logging this stuff. It's telling you what it's loading, how it's loading it, the SQL that it's writing, all that stuff. There's two types of logs here. We got server logs and application logs. So server log is what is going to be written on your server. So in our case, Heroku, right? When we upload it to Heroku, it's going to have server logs that get written on the Heroku side. But there's also application logs. And these are logs that get written on the Rails app. Okay. So whatever happens on the server, is written to the server log. Okay, and it doesn't show up in the Rails app. So if you're having a server issue, if you go to the Rail app application logs, you're not really going to see any issues. Okay, so you got to be careful with that. But let's show you where these are located. Let's close all this stuff here. So if we go here to log, we got development log. Okay, and this is where everything happens. So whenever things, and you can see that it's pretty freaking huge. Okay, and this is only 1 or 2 days of use. So yes, this does get bigger and bigger as it goes. Okay, now there's different levels. Okay, there's debug. Well, I guess they're right here. So you got debug, info, warn, error, and fatal. And you can set the level of logging that you want to happen. So if you have debug, it's going to show you all the SQL statements. It's going to show you all the requests, all the renders, deprecations, errors. It basically shows you everything. So this is good, obviously, in like a development environment. So if there's anything wrong at all, you'll be able to hopefully see it inside of the logs. Okay, then you got the info level, which shows you everything except for SQL. You got warn, which just shows you deprecations and errors. Okay, and then if you have it on the error level, it's only going to show you error, and then fatal. Okay, the difference here is error would show you when things error out, but they still work, they still run. But fatal's like, okay, this is a fatal error and it just blew up the whole application and now it can't work. Okay, so that's the two differences there. Okay, another thing I didn't is the deprecation. That'll warn you if you're using some commands that are set to be done away with, basically. Okay, so if we want to clear our logs here, we can come here. Okay, I'm going to stop my server here. And you can do Rails log clear. And you kind of want to do this every once in a while, just because, like you saw, that Rails logs can get huge, and it's going to be really hard to find what you're looking for. So I just did that, and it cleared out the whole development log, and so now it's starting back over. And another thing to know and be aware of here is any of these, so basically any logging levels that are greater than what you have set it will be ignored. All right, so if you set it to warn and then an SQL or request or render details happen, it's not going to show you that, and it's going to ignore it, and it's not going to be logged. So that's kind of obvious, right? So here's what you can write inside the controller. Okay, the different stuff that you would want on the debug, info, warn, error, and fatal levels. This is just an example of how you can do it. All right, so we cleared out the log. So now if we come back here and start the server back up, and then if we come here and we just click back to list and we're just start kind of clicking around a little bit, mine just takes forever to start going. There we go. You can see that it's already doing some logging here. Okay, so I come back here, I'm going to hit edit. You can see that it logged that. And if I come over here to the development log, you can see that it's there as well. So already everything I'm doing, it's starting to log it. Okay, and the default log development level, sorry, the default log level in development is debug. So right now it's doing debug, it's showing us everything. And that's why we get the SQL stuff. I mean, we get everything inside of development. So of course, you know, that brings us to the question, well, what if I don't want debug as the level? Right? So to change that, you go into config. Okay, then you go into environments. Okay, and then we go into the development RB. Okay. It's somewhere here. Oh, I forgot. You have to actually add it. So what we would do is we'd come in here and we'd say config .log level equals, and then we would say what level. So maybe we won't log debug, maybe we want warn, right? And so then we can put warn in there, and then save it, and then it should start logging things a little bit differently. Just because I want to test that, let's hit back. Okay. Let's hop back into log here, development. I may have to restart the server, I don't know. But anyways, it's not really that important. Just we know where the logs are, we know how to set which level we want, and I don't know if we can override that. We may or may not be able to here. But anyways, head back there, but that's how you would change it to whatever level you want there. But my guess is I'd have to restart the server there to get it to do that. But now I'm in the production. And we can see that it's config log level debug. So that's what it's set to do in the production environment. Okay, now we can set things to show up in the logger if we want. Okay, and to do that, we're going to head into the subjects controller here. Let's close all that out. Head over to the controllers, head over to subject. Okay, and we can say, all right, in the action of index, we can say logger debug, and then we're just going to put something crazy in here that's going to be pretty hard to miss. You know, something like that. So this is a way to check to see if what you're writing in your code is actually working and being ran. So you can throw a debug in there to see if this shows up, that you know at least it's gotten to this point in the code. That'd be kind of a use for this logger thing. All right, so now because I put that in the subjects controller, I'm going to head over to subjects. Okay, and then if we check this out, we can see it there, testing logger. Okay, and we should be able to head over to log. I think it's going to be at the bottom. Yep, testing logger. So we can see that that showed up, which is a happy day. All right, so let's move on. Head to the boring pictures. All right, authentication. Okay, we kind of need it just so we can prove who we say we are. And so these sensitive areas, places that people shouldn't be, they can't go, right? So we need to make sure that we do a lot of these best practices with password storage. And the cool thing is Rails does most of it for us. Okay, so right now we have our CMS where we can add new subjects and things. Well, we don't want anybody to be able to do that, right? We need to have a page where they have to log in to be able to get in there and do all this stuff. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit in the PHP class, but we always want to make sure we encrypt our passwords when we put them in the database. Don't ever put them in as just string text, because if the database gets compromised, now the hacker has all of the passwords and didn't have to work for it. Also, what if somebody at the job is a punk and he can just go into the database and he can see everyone's passwords, and that's not good either. You should never know what people's passwords are just by being able to get to the database. So And then of course, people use the same passwords in multiple places. So like when Yahoo got hacked or when these big places get hacked, man, they now have passwords for a bunch of different other services as well. So it kind of hoses everybody. So just to make sure, just be nice to everyone, right? That's what we're trying to do here. We'll make it good for everybody. Just make sure you always encrypt these passwords. Okay, Rails does a one-way encryption. In other words, it just encrypts it, sends it, and there's no way for it to be decrypted back to what it was before. So that's good. So let's take a look at some of this stuff. Okay, so it does a one-way encryption. Okay, it's not reversible, not even by us. So once we get that hash, we can't turn it back to what it was before. Okay, the actual password is encrypted and stored in the database, right? And it uses blowfish. So what it does is it just takes that hash. When you type in your password, it encrypts it and then compares the hashes together. And if they're right, then it lets them in. Uses blowfish. We use blowfish with PHP as well. So to do this, to invoke all of this awesomeness, you use this has secure password. Okay, and we need to have this stuff. Okay, the application must have bcrypt gem installed. Okay, and the table needs to have a string column for password digest. All right, so because of that, it reminded me I need to open up pgadmin because we got to take a look at what we have right now. Now I got to tell you guys, I know you're not going to care that much, but I got to tell you anyways. Getting a gem, oh my gosh, getting a gem to work on Windows was an absolute nightmare. The bcrypt gem that it gives you by default did not work. And I spent probably about 3 or 4 hours trying to find one that didn't work. And then I just stumbled upon one finally after just going completely crazy. And I tried it and it ended up working. Mac people, you're probably not going to have to worry about this as much. So this is one of those few instances in life where having a Mac was actually a good thing. But I don't know. We'll see when you try to do what we're going to do here. So hop into my tables. We're going into admin users. Drop that down, head up to the columns. All right, so we can see the columns that we have. We have hashed password. Well, that doesn't work. Not with the gem that we're going to use. It needs to be called password digest. So we're going to have to create a migration file to change that. And that's what we're going to do. Okay. And then let me view the data in here as well, so we can make sure this stuff works. So you can see what we've already done in here. We got John Doe, got their email, but we have this hashed password one, which we can move that over a little bit. Okay, but that isn't going to work with bcrypt because it expects password digest. So there's some stuff we got to do, and let's get her done, right? So okay, so we got to make sure. So the first thing we got to do is make sure bcrypt's installed. So we'll head over to gem file. Okay, remember these are all the gems here that, get rid of this, just hit escape to get rid of that dumb thing. If we come down here, we can see by default it has bcrypt 3.1.7, and this right here means actually it says take the most updated version of bcrypt that's above 3.1.7. So that's what this little tilde greater than says is, all right, just get whatever version is higher than this version. It won't go any lower than 3.1.7. Now, Mac people, you may be okay to just do this. You can try it if you want, or try to do what I'm going to show you. Either way works. I don't really care. But this will not work, or at least it did not work for me on Windows. It actually blew the whole thing up. Once I did this, I couldn't run my server. I couldn't get into the console. I couldn't do anything because bcrypt, actually the most up-to-date version in this recording, I think, is that 3.1.11. And so that's what it installed, and it just doesn't play well with Windows. But Mac people, you should be able to uncomment this and be fine. Okay, Windows people, like I said, this took me way, way too long to figure out, but it just was some random post on a thing there, on a board where the person's like, well, I used this one and it seemed to work, and I tried it and I was like, oh my gosh, like, 4 hours later, here we go. So yeah, bcrypt has a lot of issues on Windows, and so what we're doing is we're going straight out to GitHub to use this gem. And for whatever reason, this was the only one I could find that would work. So I kind of have to type this out, which is kind of annoying, but it's okay because actually, no, I don't. I just have it in my notes here. And I'm going to copy and paste because I want to make sure that I do it right this first time. Because I don't want to have to go through that nightmare again. Guys, it really was horrible. It was not fun at all. Tried to get that to work. So anyways, this is what it looks like. So it's gem space, single quote, bcrypt, single quote, comma, space, get, colon, space, quote, this. Okay. Single quote, comma, space, colon, require, bcrypt. Okay. I can't tell you why it was the only one that worked. It's like maybe the other types of gems that they have out there in the wild just aren't as good. Even the one on rubygems.org wasn't working. This is the only one that seemed to do everything we need, because I did get to the point where I could launch the server. I could do everything except for create a password and have it be encrypted. And again, I know you're like, shut up, move ahead, but I'm just letting you know that a lot of this development is not perfect in Ruby. If you remember, guys, remember that I had issues on Windows as well, and I had to go back to 1.8, right? CoffeeScript source, because it wasn't showing the CSS and the images and stuff the way it should. So Windows development with Ruby on Rails can be kind of annoying. All right. So like I said, Mac people, if you want to just try and go for that, go for it. Windows people, make sure you have this. Make sure you type it in correctly. And then we'll get that going. All right, so I'm going to stop my server because I need to get this gem installed. So once you've added a new gem, or you've changed some gems inside of your gem file, you always need to run bundle. Oh wait, hold on. Yeah, make sure you're in the root folder and do bundle install. So it's going to go out there and it's going to check to see all the gems that you have defined here, and ones that you've added, it's going to go, oh, wait a minute. So it notices that I've added that GitHub one. Okay, and it's done. And I can come up here and it says, dependency will be unused, blah, blah, blah. It's just giving me an issue. I don't know. But, well, I don't know. We'll see if it works. And what's interesting is before the different ones that I installed, I could say gem list and it would show me all the gems. And when I say gem list, there's no, I may end up, this may not even work. I really hope it does, because I did so many things. But there's no bcrypt gem, but yet it still worked for me, which was interesting. Like I said, we'll get to the point where hopefully it works. We'll see. Okay, so that's the first part. We got to get bcrypt in there, and now we need to go into our database and change hashed password to password digest, because that's what the bcrypt gem is going to be looking for. All right, so we're going to head back here to the command, okay, and we're going to create a migration that's going to do that for us. So we're going to say Rails generate migration, and I'm just going to call it add password digest to admin users. It really doesn't have to be this long or crazy, but that's what we're going to create there. All right, so it created it. So we can close out a lot of this junk over here. Get rid of the controllers. And I get lost sometimes. Oh yeah, I think it's in DB here. So yep, migrate. All right, there's the new one that we made. Okay, now of course this is major review here, right? We did this a long time ago, but we want to change this to up. Remember, on the up migration, that's all the changes that it does, and then on the down, that's how it would revert back to what you had before. Okay, so when we do it, when we run it, we want it to remove the column from the table admin users. Okay, the column that we want to be removed is hashed password. Okay, remember we're going back here. So we're going to the table of admin users and we're getting rid of hashed password. We're just going to get rid of it and delete it completely. Okay, and then we're going to add the column to the table of admin users. We're going to call it password digest because that's what bcrypt requires. And we're going to give it a type of a string. So it's going to be a string column. Okay, that's it. Just going to copy and paste this because I'm lazy. Bam. Okay, and so when we go down, we're going to remove password digest, right? And then we're going to add to the same table, we're going to add the column. We're going to go back to what we had before. So hashed password, give it the type of a string. Also, we gave it a limit. I think we did anyways, a limit of 40 characters. If you don't remember, you can come to schema here and this tells you what we have. So we have our hash password and yeah, we gave it a limit of 40. So that's how you can go back and check. In your schema here, it'll tell you all the stuff that you have in your database. So we want to keep that intact, keep the limit to the 40. And that should be it. Remove column admin users. I'm just going to kind of double check this real quick. Password, looks like everything's spelled right. Happy day. Okay. All right, so now that we created that, we come back here and we're going to go Rails DB migrate. And remember, it checks to see all the different migrations and which ones have been run. All of these have been ran except for this new one that we created. So we can run that. Go through it, remove the column hash password, added the column password digest, gave it a type of string. That's how long it took. We can come back here to double check that that worked. Right click and we can just say not restore. We're just going to view the data again. All right, and then I think we have it, people. Password digest. Perfect. That's what we wanted. So we're good to go there. All right, now we need to tell the model, right? Because the model is what communicates with the database. We need to tell the model, hey, we have bcrypt installed. Make sure when we add passwords that you encrypt them. So we're going to head over to our models here. We're going to hop on to, let's see, which one is it? The admin user. Okay. We got all this stuff going on with the admin user. Okay, and at the top, we're just going to say that, hey, this is going to be when we create these admin users, we're going to use bcrypt and we're going to make sure that we encrypt these passwords. And so to do that, all you have to do is say has secure password. That's it. That's telling it to invoke and to call blowfish bcrypt and to mess with all that. And then it's also telling it, and it's expecting the password digest column in there to be in your database. Now I do want to show one other thing here. This is all the stuff we did. Okay, but this is kind of what it does. Okay, this is what is all built into has secure password. Okay, it validates the presence of password, right, on create when you create someone. It validates the confirmation. So if you had two different fields, right, if you had to type in your password twice, it would automatically verify that for you. Okay, and then there's this authenticate method that we're going to use later, and that's what's going to actually take that encrypted password that they've typed in, and it's going to encrypt it and do all that fun stuff. Alrighty, so now that we have that, we don't have a page to create an admin. We're going to be doing that later. I think not this week, but next week. We'll actually be able to do this in a graphical user interface environment, where here we're just got to do it through the console. So this is where I ran into my 4 hours of complete torture trying to get this to work. So I really hope this works. So we're going to go into the console, so rel C. We're going to create a user through the console, and hopefully we'll be able to see Blowfish working. Okay, now Mac people, if it works, great. Windows people, it should work. If not, I'm sorry. If it doesn't work, okay, so Mac people, if it doesn't work, you may want to try using this instead. Maybe this wasn't enough, but I'm pretty sure it'll be okay for you. Windows people, if you're using this, hopefully it'll work, because like I said, it worked for me. So here we go. So I'm going to set up a variable. I'm going to set it equal to admin user. That's the class, right, that we use to go in there and mess the users here. And I'm just going to go to trying to think. If I go I guess I'll do it this way. So admin user dot first, okay, that's going through and it's pulling out the John Doe, one that we created either last week or a week before or so. So it's pulling all the information that it has. So we just grab the first admin user. So now if I type in U, it's going to give me everything that's stored inside of U. So now I can set up a password for that, and this is the moment of truth. Okay, and I can say, I'll just do what I always do, ABC123. Okay, and I hit enter and hope to heck that this works. Okay, beautiful. Oh, that's so good. So if it doesn't work, it's going to give you all kinds of weird Ruby issues, Ruby errors. But I'm pretty sure it worked now. Now I can say u dot password. So I set the password to ABC123. Well, that isn't encrypted, right? Well, when the minute you set the password, bcrypt encrypts it for you. And to see what it looks like, we can just say, show me what's inside of you. So now it shows all this stuff, the email, all that junk. Okay, and then it says password digest, and then there it is. So that's how you know it works. Okay, is it sets up this password digest, which is the encrypted password, the encrypted version of ABC123. And you can also see that I can't, well, yeah, so that's really all you need to know. And if that password digest shows up like this, then you know that bcrypt is working, you know that everything's great and that the stars have aligned and everything's happy. Okay, now I'm going to set up a real user this time. So I don't want to use John Doe. So I would recommend that you do the same thing as well, because we are going to create it a little login screen, and we need to make sure that we can log in to get to these different areas of the content management system. So I'm going to say new. All right, and to do this, I want to have this open because I need to know all the different things that I need to put in there. So I don't want to type the whole thing out and have a chance for it to be messed up. So I'm just going to kind of do it one at a time. So I'm going to say first underscore name is going to be equal to Dave. Okay, so then I should be able to say you. What's inside of you? Well, we have a first name Dave, and that's it. Everything else is nil. That's fine. So now I'm going to say u dot. okay, because I started a new one. So I'm going to say u dot, and I'm just going to start filling in all this stuff. So u dot last name is going to be equal to kid. Okay, and then I'm going to say u dot email is equal to, and remember we set up verification, so these need to be real. I mean, it doesn't have to be a real email, but you have to follow the @ and the .edu or the .com format. Oh, and remember your username needs to be more than 8 characters as well. So u.username, I'm going to say dave.kid. Okay, and then I'm going to say u.password is going to be equal to abc123. Now if I shoot you back, ID's nil, that's fine. First name, last name, email, created that, updated, that's fine. Okay, username. Now, once we have all that, okay, the password digest worked, we should say use u.save. Now, this will be interesting to see if this works or not. I don't think it's going to. Yeah, false. Now, remember, we need to see why. So we can say u.valid, right? And it says it's false, so we need to go, okay. Oh, crap. I forgot what this is. I think it now it's u.errors.full messages, I think. All right, yeah, that's what it was. So u.errors.full messages. Can't create users on Tuesday. I ran into this yesterday and I got so mad. I'm like, this dumb thing that I set up to stop me from creating users is now kicking my butt. And it was a good thing that I remembered the full messages thing, because I'm like, why isn't this working? The bcrypt is working. I was getting all mad, and well, we can't create users on Tuesday, right? So it's that dumb thing that we set up. So we have to go back to, I want to say it was the model. So we go back to the model, admin user, and we scroll down. Remember, we said, hey, and this was just to show that, hey, you can set up different verifications if you want, which it ended up screwing me over. So I'm going to comment this out. So I'm going to begin the comment. Okay, and just make sure you don't comment out too much, and then I'm going to end it. Okay, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to get rid of that. So this may or may not mess with you, and if it does, well, sorry, but you just got to make sure that you go out here and comment this stuff out, or it'll mess you over. It all just depends on what day you set up and if it's the same day or not. Okay, now, this kind of sucks. You may want to fast forward a little bit, but I'm pretty sure you can't reload this, or at least I tried to. So I have all that. Let's see if it'll let me. Yeah, I think it's still freaking out about that. So errors, full messages. Yeah, it's still freaking out. So what I had to actually end up doing is I had to just exit out and reload the console, which sucks because that just lost all of this stuff, which is really kind of annoying. So like I said, feel free to, well, hold on. Yeah, it's gone. So feel free to fast forward right now if you need to. I gotta set all that up again. Yay. What did I mess up? Oh, I forgot man, I always forget that little colon there. Okay, boom. All right, so I'm gonna bring this up again. So sorry, I know that was kind of wasted some time, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of that, and just in case things weren't working, to review the show messages, the full messages, just so you're able to go back in there and figure it out if it was giving you some issues. Because like I said, that was part of my 4 or 5 hour nightmare trying to get everything working. So then we got username, and remember we did set in a verification to make sure that the username is more than 8 characters. So make sure that you do that as well. su.password, and we do need to do this because, like I said, we're going to need to be able to test our login. Okay, so let's see what we have here. So first name, last name, email, username, dave.kid, password digest, looks good. I think that's all I'm going to need. So now we'll try saving that to the database. Okay, cool. So now that it's not Tuesday, and now that my username's long enough and my email's fine, it committed that and it saved it to the database. Like I said, you definitely want to do that because once we get everything set up, you want to have a user to be able to test that with. Okay, and now we can take a look at it. So Dave Kidd, the email, when it was created, my username, and then the password is encrypted in there. Happy days, guys. Happy days. Okay. So now we need to create a controller to get access to this. So I'm going to exit out. Okay. Let's generate that controller. So Rails generate controller access menu and login. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a controller called access. Okay, capital A there. And then I'm creating for that controller two views called menu and login. All right, so one of them will be the login page and the other one will show all the different admin users. Okay, so hit enter there. Should be able to come over to our controllers. There's the access controller. Okay, with the two views. Okay, and then if we don't really need the models right now, go to views. We have our access folder there. Okay, and we have login and menu there. Okay, the two there. So that's what should have been created when we ran that. All right, now we need to set up the routes. So these will actually let us go to the different pages. Close all that. So we go to config, go over here to routes. Okay, you can see that it already added these two, access menu and access login. And because this is not a database item, it's not going to be pulling stuff from the database. It's just going to be checking things from the database. We don't need these resourceful routes because we're not creating objects and talking with the database and doing any of that. So we can keep these simple routes. It's okay. All right, so what I want to set up here is we'll keep these two. We'll set up another one, get admin. So this is just so I can be able to type in, localhost 3000/admin, and it'll take me to either the login screen or a list of all of the different admin users that I have. Oops. So we're just setting up this kind of fake route to redirect. Okay, it's going to redirect to access menu. So when I type in localhost 3000/admin, it's just going to redirect me here. That's all we did there. Okay, so we got get access menu. We're going to keep that. Get access login. Okay, and then there's a couple other things we're going to add here. So post. So we're using the post method. Access attempt login. Okay, these are views that we'll create later. Okay, and then we're going to have access logout. So when we click on the logout, we'll have a logout button. When we click on that, it's going to go to this route. Okay, when we try to log in, it's going to go to this route and so forth. So these are the 5 routes that we need here. Okay, and we have post in there once. We're using post because that's when we're going to use the post method to check to see if what they typed in is the same as in the database. All right, so we can save that. We can come here to check to make sure these worked. We can say Rails routes. Okay, we did this a long time ago. This shows us all the different routes, and we can take a look at these new ones. Okay, and we'll be able to use also these URL helpers. I don't know if you guys remember those, but we'll definitely be reviewing those when we get to them. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, looks like we're good. These are the ones that we'll be using. All right, so we did the routes. Can save that. Okay, now we got to head over to the controller and get that set up. So app controllers. Okay, the access controller that was just created. So first thing we want to tell this controller is to use the same layout that everybody else is using. So layout admin. Okay, that so it'll apply the CSS that we've defined and all of that. Now, menu and login, all this is doing is just displaying static stuff. So this is going to be displaying the text and the links, right? And then login is just going to be displaying the login form. So we don't need to do anything with these actions here. Okay, but we did set up a couple more, right? If you remember the routes, we set up the attempt login and the logout. So we have to define those as well. So attempt login, okay, and we have logout. Now we're going to do this next week. Actually write the code that's going to check to see if their login is correct or not. Okay. Well, actually, I don't know if we're doing it next week. Actually, we might be doing it this week, but for now, that's all we're going to type here. All right, so let's mess with the views here, the templates. Okay, so now that we've created and got that controller halfway ready, let's head over to the views, let's go to access. Okay, we're gonna mess with menu first. So I'm just gonna type this in. Feel free to fast forward it to get whatever you need here. This is going to be the admin menu, so we're just setting up the page title here. Okay, got a div, class name of menu. Got my h2 tag. So this is going to be the menu that the admins will see when they log in that will give them all their superpowers, right? So div class identity. That's pulling off the CSS file that we did a couple weeks ago or whenever that was. It's all molding together. Okay, you're gonna do an unordered list to list all the different things that the admin people can do here. So the first list item is going to have some Ruby code in it. Link to. Okay, so those are just creating HTML links. The first link is going to be manage subjects. That's going to take us to the page that will allow us to manage the subjects. Okay, and we're using the URL helpers there. Okay, and then we will close out of the LI. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste this, 4 more times, because the rest of them are going to be pretty similar. So 2, 3, 4. 5. There we go. Just messed with myself there. So now we got manage pages. Okay, and that's going to take us to pages path. Remember, this was a couple weeks ago, but these are the URL helpers that take us directly to where we need to go here. This is going to be subjects path. No. Ooh, I'm looking at my notes. I screwed mine up on my other one. So this is going to be sections path. I got subjects path there. I didn't catch that. Okay, so sections. This next one, let's see, is going to be manage admin users. So that's going to be able to go to the page where it lists all the admin users. Okay, we haven't created that yet. So for now, we're just going to put it in as like a dead link, okay, with the pound symbol. Okay, and then we have, it's going to be log out. So access log out path. So that's all that link's going to do. We're going to click on it and it's going to log us out. And we'll control that over here in the controller later. We'll set that up. Okay, then we'll put in the div. That should be it. So subjects path, pages path, sections path. Okay, we got the dead link for now. Access logout path. Yep. Manage subject, manage pages, manage sections. All right, that should be all we need. Okay, cool. Now we're going to hop into login. Okay, I'm going to grab the page title from there. What the heck? I think I just copied that whole thing, which I don't need, so go away. Yes, go away. I must have been clicked on the wrong thing. So I'm copying that. I must have copied the page instead of, yeah, that was weird. All right, so this is going to be admin login. So this is going to be the login form that people are going to use to log into the app. So div class equals login. Okay, and then we're going to set up the form. So form tag. Okay, so that's going to take us to the attempt login, right? That's, or is it? Yeah, that's going to take us there to see if we're able to be logged in. Okay, a method we're going to be using is post. Now we're not using the form helper this time. We're not doing, because we don't have any objects to mess with, or we're not pulling anything from the database. All we're doing is we're just checking the database. That's it. So we can do these simple form helpers here. It doesn't have to be anything crazy on this one. I'm gonna close out the table. I'm gonna close out the div too, just so I don't forget, because I do that a lot. Okay. All right, creating a table now. Close out the TR. Okay, first TD, we have some more Ruby code. Now we just got to set up the tags here and the form. It's giving it a label of the username because that's what it's going to be asking for, is the username. Close out of that TD. Okay, this is going to be a text field tag. It's going to be using the username, and it's going to be grabbing what they typed in, and the way you do that is with the params. So that's referencing the part in the database. Okay, and this is pulling what they typed inside of the form. Okay. Now what we're going to be doing is pretty similar, so I'm just going to copy and paste this twice. 1, 2. Okay, so next one's password. So that first thing they're typing in is their username, and the next one is the password. Okay, text field tag password. Now we're going to be using the hash, the password digest, so that's it. This is smart enough to take it, encrypt it, and then compare the encrypted password to what we already have in there. so we don't have to do anything with params there. Okay, the next one doesn't need a label, so we're just going to put in a non-breaking space here. Okay, and then this one is going to be a submit tag because it's going to be the button that they click. It's going to say log in. All right, then we need to end the form tag. I want to double check that really quick. All right, maybe you caught this, maybe not. This is password, so this is not a text field. We don't want to be able to see what they're typing in as their password. So this is going to be password field tag. Okay, I think the rest of it looks good. We will find out later. Okay, so we can take a look and see if this works or not. Let's bust open our server. Okay, if you remember the routes that we set up, we should be able to just type in admin here, and that's going to route us to the access page, right? So it looks like it's running, so we will hit enter. Hold on, I gotta plug it in my headphone there. Okay, so there we go. So it routed us to the access. I can't remember what it's called. Hold on, which routes? It routed us to access menu. So I could type in access menu, takes me to the same spot because we told admin to route us there. Okay, and then we have manage subject, manage page. So I click manage subjects, takes me there. Manage pages, takes me there. Manage sections. Okay, manage admin user, doesn't take me anywhere because we haven't made it yet, and then log out. Okay, and log out doesn't really do anything either because we haven't, yeah, it's like, there is nothing here, which is absolutely true. Okay, and then should be able to go to access login. Okay, and then that's asking for the username and password, and added password text field. Yay, so that's working. And then we have our login button. Cool. So everything's working the way it should right now. Okay, now we have some fun coding to do. You guys love it. All right, so we're gonna go to the controller again. We're gonna go to the access controller. And we have to say what this stuff is going to do. All right, so this is gonna be a good amount of coding, so make sure that you write this correctly. So we're gonna define what happens with the attempt login action. All right, so if the params, okay, of the username that they gave us, right, is present, we're just seeing if they typed in a username, because if they didn't type in a username, there's no reason to check the password, right? And params password is present, do the following. So basically this is just checking to see if they've typed in something for username and something for password. And if it hasn't, it's just going to error out. Okay, we're going to set up a variable called found user, and we're going to use the admin user class to do a query to the database. Okay, so we're going to basically check to see if the username inside of the database matches what they typed in. Okay, now we're going to put first here at the end because that'll just check the first thing that comes up. Okay, so this found user will return, when it does this query, it's going to return true or false. If it finds the user, it's going to return true. If it doesn't, it's going to return false. All right, so again, it's just using the database class admin user to go to the database and to check if the username that they found inside the database is equal to the one that they typed in. Oh, and it added name. That's so annoying when it does that. Okay, if it does that to you, make sure it doesn't say first name there. Okay, if found user, in other words, if it returns true, okay, set up another variable called authorized user, found user authenticate. So this is where Blowfish comes in. Okay. You have too many ends there. Okay, so, and I am like not even knowing how to spell things. So authorized, there we go. I'm like doing exactly what I told you guys not to do. All right, so if it found the user, in other words, it's checking to see if what they typed in even exists in the database. So if the user doesn't even exist, there's no reason to even check the password. So if they're present, okay, and if this returns true, in other words, if it checks the database and it finds that username, then it's going to do another check to say, okay, if the found user, if it found the user, we're going to set up a variable and store found user, okay, dot authenticate. So it's going to take this found user that it's found, and it's going to authenticate the password that they typed in that's attached to that found user, right? So authenticate is a built-in method, a built-in command from bcrypt. Okay, so it's going to take what they typed in, it's going to encrypt it, and then it's going to compare that encrypted password to what's inside of the database. Okay, and then we got two ends. Now we're not ending this attempt login yet. Okay, so that's why I didn't have that end. We just ended that if statement and that if statement. Okay, if authorized user, in other words, if authorized user comes back as true, then we know that the password was authenticated and it found the right password. So if authorized user, in other words, if that's true, we're going to set up a session attached to that user so you can click to the different pages and you'll be authenticated and you don't have to log in every time to see every page. So we're going to set up a session. Okay, user ID. Okay. We're going to set it equal to authorized user.id. So the authorized user that it found, we're going to set up a session ID, and we'll call it user ID, and we're going to set it equal to the ID of their database ID. Come on, stop doing that, Adam. That's just ridiculous. Oh, Adam, you're making me mad. Okay. So we set up that session. We're going to give a flash notice to let them know that it worked. So the flash notice is going to be, you are now logged in. Woot. Okay. And then we're going to redirect them. So we're going to redirect them to admin path. In other words, we're going to redirect them to that admin menu. Okay. Right, so that's if the authorized user, if it comes back, is authorized. Okay, if it's not, if they didn't come back as authorized, we're going to do flash.now, and I'll tell you why we're doing now in a couple seconds. We're going to set up that notice of invalid username or password. Remember, it's common practice to not say, oh, your username was wrong or your password was wrong, because then that would give hackers that much more ability to hack you. You just tell them one of them was wrong. Okay, and then we're going to render the login page again. Okay, we're going to end that if statement, and then we're going to end this attempt login. So make sure you have the right amount of ends that can screw you over. Okay, now the reason why I have flash.now is because these flash notices, they always appear on the next page. So you can see if they're authorized, it's going to redirect them to admin path. They'll go to admin path, and then the flash notice will show up. So that's how these flash notices have been worked. If something happens, then you go to the next page, and then the flash notice shows up. Well, here you're trying to log in, and it doesn't let you, so it just refreshes that page. Well, that flash notice wouldn't show up if we just did flash notice. So it wouldn't work. Then you'd go to the next page, and whatever next page you go to, it would say invalid username or password, and they'd be like, what's going on? So this flash.now says, all right, put the notice on the page that just happened. So that's the difference there. This goes on the next page that they go to. This goes to the same page where that flash notice was generated. And that's what the render login will do. So it renders the login page again, and then it puts that flash because the flash notice because it says flash now. So just be aware of that. Okay. Actually, these are not tabbed over correctly. I know, not a huge deal, but it kind of is actually. Well, the if was okay. Actually, maybe it was okay. Yeah, this just needs to go over one. That's good enough. Okay, anyways, so we're good there. Hopefully, we'll find out in a minute. We can move these back over. Now we got to define the logout. So when they log out, basically all you got to do is just kill that session, because we're basically going to say if the session exists, let them in, let them do whatever. If the session doesn't exist, then they're not logged in. So we're going to set that session ID equal to nil. That basically kind of kills it. Okay, and then we're going to, the nil makes it empty basically. Okay, and then we're going to have a flash notice of logged out. Okay, and then we're going to redirect to the access login path. So it'll just reload the login page. Okay, and then it'll give them a flash notice that they're logged out, and everything will be good. And nil, the session basically gets set equal to empty, so it basically kills it off. All right, feel free to pause it now if you need to get that typed out. We can test it. Always loving, the heck is all this? Okay, looks like the server's still running. Cool. Oh yeah, that was that error that we got. Okay, that's fine. All right, let's see if it worked. If it doesn't, we'll figure it out. Okay, so we'll head back here. Okay, we're just gonna refresh this page, and I'm gonna log in with what we created over here. So my Dave Kid ABC123. So Dave.kid ABC123. And let's see if we get errors, or let's see if it works. All right, cool. Go away. Last pass. So it looks like it worked. Sweet. So now I'm logged in. I can manage whatever. Can manage my subjects, all that fun stuff. Okay, and then if I hit log out, looks like it worked. Logged out. But here's the problem. I can still go to subjects, right? Doesn't matter if I'm logged in or not. And if I can go straight to admin, it doesn't care. It takes me straight into admin. It doesn't matter if I'm logged in or not. Okay, and obviously that's bad. So we need to restrict the access. We have to go in there and say, all right, unless this person's logged in, they can go to these pages. If they're not logged in, then they're not able to do that. All right, so we're going to head over to the access controller. So we kind of already there. Okay, and after the layout, we need to do the before action. So before we do any of this stuff, before we try to verify all the login stuff, we're going to run a function called confirm logged in. Okay, so basically we're just going to say, hey, are they logged in or not? If they're not, don't do any of this stuff. Don't let them in. If they are logged in, then do it. Okay, now there's some actions where we don't need to confirm the login. We don't need to confirm it for menu. We don't need to confirm it for login. So that's what we're doing here. So confirmed if they're logged in, except for the login action, except for the attempt login action, and except for the logout. When they're logging out, we don't care if they're logged in or not. Okay, when they're attempting to log in, we don't care if they're logged in or not because they're trying to log in, right? That would set up an infinite loop actually, because it would say you try to log in and it'd say, are they logged in? Nope. So it'd send them back and then they try to log in again and it would just keep going and it wouldn't let them do anything. So that could set up a pretty bad situation. So we're going to run confirm to log in except for on the login action, attempt login action, and the logout action. Okay, so we do what we just did before. We're just going to drop down here to the bottom. Okay, and we're going to set up a private function that only gets ran on this controller. Okay, we're going to define it as confirm login. Confirm logged in. So we're going to say unless the session has a user ID. Come on, there we go. We're going to give them a flash notice. And the flash notice is please log in. That unless command is kind of cool. It's like an if not statement if you've ever messed with those. So many ends. So remember, you got those two ends. So here's the function. It's private, confirm logged in. Okay, unless the session ID exists, run this. So if the session ID exists, then it won't do any of this. It'll let them in, it'll log them in, everything's great. But if the session ID doesn't exist, then it's going to give them that notice of, hey, please log in, and it's going to redirect them back to the login page. Okay, and remember, this action is happening before all these other different actions except for login, attempt login, and logout. Okay. So let's try to get in now. I'm just gonna hit, I didn't think the logout was, but yeah, logout's done. Okay, so now I'm gonna try to go to the admin page. Okay, and it sends us back. But I can still get the subjects, I can still get the pages. Okay, that's obviously an issue. But if I try to get to that admin page, it recognizes that, hey, you're not logged in, so it just sends me back here and it says, please log in. But then if I log in, it's happy. It says I'm logged in. LastPass is being annoying, but then it lets me do what I need to do here. Okay, happy days. So to get this to restrict on the other pages, we need to go to our application controller. We could put it on each one of these, but the problem is, remember, you don't want to write a bunch. You kind of want to write it once and have it work kind of everywhere. So that's why we're going to put it here on the application controller. Okay, now you got to be careful here though, because if you add some public pages and they inherit the application controller, it's going to make them log into, it's going to have to make them have to log in to get to the public pages. And I'm pretty sure we're going to address that next week. All right, but for now, we're just going to write it in the application controller. All right, so what we're going to do is come back here and I'm just going to grab this function, copy it, and we'll come back to the application controller and we're just going to throw it in here. All right, so what this does is it just, now that this is in the application controller, all of my different controllers have access to this confirmed login function, method, whatever you want to call it. So basically I just made this public in a way, even though I call it private. It's private inside of application controller, but all of these controllers are inheriting everything from application controller. So we've just kind of opened it up to all the different controllers. Okay. Now, because though it's accessible to all the different controllers now, I don't need it here either. So I can get rid of it. It doesn't need to be an access controller now that it's here. All right, so now that brings us back to, okay, well, what do we need to do now? Well, we have to remember we have to put this before action, confirm the login. Now these actions don't exist on all the different controllers, so we don't need all this other stuff. We just need to run this thing on all of the different ones. So we come over here to pages. We'll just throw it here right above the other ones. So save that. Sections. Same thing. And then when we open up the subjects controller, we need to make sure that they are logged in. All right, so that should work now. Let's take a look. So if I come here and I try to go to subjects, it's going to send me back to here because I'm not logged in. If I try to go to pages, same thing, sends me back. Sections sends me back, so I better log in. So dave.kid, ABC 123, boom. Now I'm able to get in here and manage the subjects, manage the pages. I can go straight to them because it created that session. So everything is happy unicorns and rainbows, right? Good stuff. All right, people, that's it for this. That's it for this week. You can get this to Heroku, but remember, Heroku doesn't let you, it doesn't bring what's in the database with it. So that's something I need to take a look at, because you could get this on Heroku, but then when you try to log in, it probably won't let you because it won't have an admin user in there. So that's something I need to try to figure out, but just get this far. Just get it to where you have to log in to see the different pages and make sure that you have that admin user in there as well. So just get it on Heroku, upload it that way, and then you'll get credit. But really, what this is coming down to, guys, is I'm basically just going to give you a final grade for the final project. If you get it completely finished and get it turned in, you'll be fine in the class. That'll be kind of how I'm going to do the grade. It won't really be a weekly grade. It'll be more just get the whole project done and upload it to Heroku, and then you'll be fine. If you have any questions, like usual, let me know. Good luck, guys. We'll talk to you later.